There is a sound you are never meant to hear after midnight. I learned that the hard way. If you are wondering why I am running through a forest at midnight while a drum beats itself behind me, then sit back and listen carefully. Because the mistake that put me here is the same mistake most people would have made. My name is Tobi, and 3 months ago, I was a struggling musician in Lagos with no money, no future, and a family depending on me. Then I found a talking drum in the house of a dead high life musician. Everyone told me the same thing: leave that drum alone. The last owner disappeared. Never play it after midnight. I should have listened, because the first night I played it changed my life in ways I never imagined. Money came faster than I could count. Opportunities found me. My family's problems started disappearing. For the first time in my life, I thought I had escaped poverty. But then strange things started happening to the people around me. A friend lost his dream job. My mother's health suddenly worsened. Opportunities vanished from people's lives for no reason. And the more successful I became, the worse those losses become. It took me far too long to understand what was happening. And by the time I did, the drum had already given me one final prediction. 7 days. That is all it said at first. Then it spoke my sister's name. And from that moment, I knew I had made the worst mistake of my life. 3 months earlier, nobody was chasing me through any forest. The only thing chasing me back then was poverty. Every morning, I woke up in the same one-room apartment in Lagos, staring at a ceiling fan that barely worked, and wondering how I was going to survive another week. People always imagine musicians living exciting lives. The truth is, most of us spend more time worrying about money than making music. I wasn't famous or signed to any record label. I wasn't even close. Most nights, I performed at small bars, birthday parties, and events where half the audience spent most of their time looking at their phones than listening to my music. Sometimes, the organizers paid me late. Sometimes, they paid me less than we agreed. And sometimes, they disappeared completely after the event ended. I wish I could tell you I was getting used to it, but I wasn't, because every month felt harder than the one before it. My landlord had already visited my apartment twice that month to remind me that promises could not pay rent. I laughed when he left, not because it was funny, but because sometimes when life becomes too difficult, laughing is easier than crying. The worst part wasn't even the rent, it was my family. You see, if I was only the person suffering, I could have endured it, but I wasn't. My mother had been sick for months, the kind of sickness that slowly empties your pockets. Every hospital visit meant another bill. Every new prescription meant another sacrifice. Some weeks, I had to choose between helping my mother and paying my own expenses. And no matter what decision I made, somebody ended up suffering. Most nights, after my performances, I would sit alone and question my life decisions. I wasn't lazy. I practiced constantly. I showed up for every opportunity. I respected people and I worked hard. Yet, somehow, success kept happening to everyone around me except me. Meanwhile, I watched musicians with half my talents become famous. I watched people get opportunities I would have given anything for. And with every passing month, I felt like time was running ahead while I remained trapped in the same place. Looking back now, maybe that is why the drum found me. Because desperate people are easier to tempt. At the time though, I did not know that. I thought my biggest problem was money. I thought if I could just catch one lucky break, everything would finally be okay. I had no idea that some opportunities arrive carrying a price nobody can see. The day everything started was a Tuesday. I remember because I had just returned from a performance that paid so little it could barely cover my transport fare home. I sat on the edge of my bed to check my betting app for some football bets I had placed earlier that day, with hope that luck had finally decided to remember my name. Then I saw 4 missed calls, all from the same person, my younger sister Shola. Immediately, a strange feeling settled inside my stomach. Shola never called that many times unless something was wrong. I picked up the phone and called her back. The moment I heard her voice, I knew something was wrong. She was trying hard to sound normal. But when you have known someone your entire life, you learn to hear things they don't see. Shola, what is wrong? I asked. There was a brief silence. Then she sighed. My exam registration closes on Friday. My chest tightened immediately because I already knew where this conversation was going. The deadline had been approaching for weeks, and every time she mentioned it, I gave the same answer.
I am working
on it. The truth was that I wasn't. I simply did not have the money. Tobi, I didn't call to pressure you, she said quickly. I just thought you should know. I rubbed my forehead.
How much is left?
How much is left? She told me, and I couldn't speak for a moment. To some people, it wasn't a lot of money, but to me, it sounded like ₦1,000,000. Instead of blaming me, Shola started encouraging me, and it somehow made me feel worse. Tobi, do you know why I am not worried?
I don't worry about
she asked.
you.
Why?
Why?
Because you are too stubborn to fail. Despite everything, I laughed.
What kind of compliment
is that? I'm serious, she replied. Her voice became brighter.
Most people would have given up on music
by now. But not you. I leaned back against the wall. She had no idea how close I was to giving up at that moment. Then she said something that made me feel guilty again.
I tell my friends all the time that my brother is going to be famous one day.
I almost cried because the person who believed in me the most was the same person I was failing. When things finally work out, she continued,
you are going
to laugh about all this. If I interrupted. No, she corrected me immediately. When? For the first time that day, I smiled properly. Then she lowered her voice. Mommy says your season is coming too. I laughed. Mommy also says bitter leaf can cure anything. That made both of us laugh. For a moment, the problems disappeared. It was just me and my little sister again. Then her voice became more serious. Tobi, no matter what happens, don't give up. Your breakthrough is closer than you think. At the time, I thought she was simply encouraging me. I had no idea how right she was. The call ended a few minutes later, and I sat quietly on the edge of my bed, staring at my phone, thinking and worrying, trying to figure out how I was going to save my sister's future before Friday arrived. Then I got a notification on my phone. The family of a famous high-life musician who died years ago was holding a clear-out sale for everything he owned. His instruments, speakers, records and equipment. And according to the message, musicians were already rushing there, hoping to find bargains. I decided to go because if I could find some equipment cheaply, it might help me get better performance opportunities. After all, I needed every opportunity I could get right now. What I did not know was that I was about to own something very valuable and dangerous at the same time. The house was larger than I expected. An old compound, tucked away in a quiet part of the city. By the time I arrived, the place was already crowded. Musicians, collectors, and even ordinary people were there, looking for things they could resell. The dead musician's children stood near the entrance, directing people around. It quickly became obvious that they weren't interested in preserving their father's legacy. They just wanted everything gone as fast as possible. I wandered into the compound, looking for something that would be useful to me. I eventually made my way towards an old storage building behind the compound. The place smelled of dust and old wood. Broken instruments lay scattered everywhere. It looked like the part of the compound that nobody cared about. I was about to leave when something caught my eye. A talking drum, sitting alone in the corner, half hidden beneath a torn cloth. For some reason, nobody had touched it. I walked closer to it to inspect it. The leather looked old and the wood was faded. Compared to everything else I had seen that day, it looked worthless. Yet, something felt strange about it, like it didn't belong there. I bent down to pick it up, and the moment my fingers touched it, a voice spoke behind me. Put that one back. I nearly dropped the drum. I turned around, and it was an elderly man standing near the doorway. I didn't even hear him enter. He looked directly at the drum in my hand and repeated himself,
Leave that
"Leave
one."
that one." I asked why, and the old man replied,
The
"The
last
last
man
man
who
who
owned it
owned it
disappeared.
disappeared." For a moment, I thought he was joking, but his face never changed. I should have paid attention to that warning. Instead, I brushed it off, thinking the old man was about to tell me one of those village superstitions people use to scare children away. So I stubbornly insisted on buying the drum. This Baba doesn't know how much I need this drum for my performances. Then he looked directly into my eyes and said,
If you
"If you
insist on
insist
taking
on
it,
taking it,
remember one thing.
remember one thing." His voice became lower.
Never play
"Never
it
play
after
it after
midnight.
midnight." I had no idea he was trying to save my life. When I got home, I dropped the drum in one corner of my apartment. For a while, I almost forgot about the warning. Then midnight came. The room was silent. The city outside had gone quiet. I didn't know why I did it. Maybe it was my curiosity. Maybe it was boredom. Or maybe even pride. Whatever the reason, I picked up the drum. Then I struck it once. At first, nothing happened. I smiled to myself. Of course, nothing happened. I was preparing to put the drum down when I heard it. Tap. I froze. A second beat followed. Tap tap. I wasn't touching the drum anymore, yet it was playing by itself. My heart started beating faster. Then the rhythm changed. Tap 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 tap. At first, it sounded random. Then I noticed something strange. The beats weren't repeating, but they were forming patterns. The same way words form sentences. The drum wasn't speaking with a voice. It was speaking through rhythm. And somehow, I understood it. Images appeared in my mind as the rhythm continued. I saw a football stadium with two teams and a scoreboard with a final score. The rhythm stopped playing immediately, and silence returned. I sat there, staring at the drum, trying to make sense of what had just happened. I thought I was dreaming, or maybe the stress was affecting my mind. Eventually, I wrote down the score on a piece of paper. Then I went to bed. The next day, I spent most of my time trying not to think about it. But that evening, I checked the match results and my stomach dropped. The score was exactly the same as the drum had shown me. For several minutes, I sat there staring at my phone, trying to come up with a logical explanation. Maybe it was a coincidence, or maybe my brain was playing tricks on me. But deep down, I already knew the truth. The drum was correct. I looked at the old instrument with fear, and I promised myself I would never touch it again. That promise lasted until midnight, and my curiosity pushed me to play it again. The same thing repeated itself. The drum gave me a football prediction, but this time around, I decided to bet on the drum's prediction, and it worked. That was the first of more to come. For the first time in months, money was entering my account faster than it was leaving. And just as my confidence began returning, something strange happened. Shola called me and she sounded disappointed and confused. A scholarship she had been expecting to receive had gone to somebody else. Everyone had assumed she would get it, even her lecturers. But somehow, at the last minute, another student got selected instead. "It doesn't make sense," she said. I felt bad for her, but life is unfair sometimes. At least, that is what I told myself. Neither of us knew that something far more important had just been taken away from her. Anyways, I sent her some money from my winnings, and immediately I transferred the money, she called me. "Tobi, where did you get this?" I had already prepared an answer. "A few performance jobs finally paid." She sounded relieved. And somewhere in the corner of my apartment, the drum waited quietly for midnight, ready to tell me tomorrow once again. I started betting on the predictions aggressively. Money was arriving faster than I ever imagined possible. I sorted out my mother's hospital bills, and her treatment resumed. Shola's school fees were paid completely. I bought better equipment, booked better gigs, and eventually moved out of my tiny apartment that had witnessed years of disappointment. Things were finally moving forward for me, almost too quickly. The drum had brought me good fortune that ended all those years of suffering. Then one day, Shola visited my new apartment. She kept looking around, touching things and taking everything in. Finally, she turned towards me and asked me a question I had been avoiding for weeks.
Tobi,
Tobi, where is all this money coming from? For a second, I almost told her. But how do you explain a drum that knows tomorrow? Instead, I laughed. I told you my season was coming. She laughed too, but I could tell she wasn't fully convinced, and neither was I. Midnight arrived again, and I played the drum. But this time, there was no betting prediction. The rhythm I had was different, slower, heavier, and almost urgent. Then the images came. I saw a highway, rain, headlights, then I saw metal twisting, glass exploding, and bodies thrown forward. I had painful screams. The vision ended so suddenly. I sat there breathing hard, my entire body covered in sweat. For the first time, the drum hadn't shown me money. This time it showed me death. The next morning, I tried to ignore it, but I couldn't. Every of the drum's predictions had come true. What if this one did too? For hours, I argued with myself. Eventually, I made a decision. I picked up my phone and anonymously made a report to the authorities. I didn't tell them about the drum. Nobody would believe that. I simply gave them information to make them investigate. And it worked. The bus was stopped before the journey. Mechanical problems were discovered and the trip was cancelled. The accident never happened. Dozens of people survived without ever knowing they had been in danger. For the rest of that day, I felt incredible. For once, I wasn't using the drum to help myself. I had saved lives. I felt like a hero. Maybe that was the drum's true purpose. Maybe it had chosen me to help people with it. I wish that was the truth. I wish it was as simple as that. Then, the strange news started the next day. A musician friend of mine called me to tell me that a record deal he had been chasing for a year had suddenly gone to someone else. Nobody could explain why. It didn't stop there. A neighbor I knew lost nearly everything when his business caught fire unexpectedly. Another person close to me lost a job opportunity that had already been promised to him. One story became two, two became three, and three became five. Everywhere I looked, somebody's future seemed to be falling apart. At first, I ignored it. Bad things happen every day. That's life. Then it reached me directly. My mother's health suddenly got worse. The same doctors who had been pleased with her progress now looked concerned again. The same treatment that made her better suddenly stopped working. I sat beside her hospital bed, trying to understand what was happening. Nothing made sense. Around me, lives were breaking apart for reasons nobody could explain. But I never connected those events to myself. Not yet. I continued to listen to the drum, still accepting its gifts, still believing every victory belonged to me. A few days later, Shola visited again. She noticed the new furniture and equipment in my apartment. She looked at me directly, not smiling or joking this time, but with a serious look. Tobi, what exactly is going on? Shola kept looking at me for a few seconds, as if waiting for me to explain everything properly. But I didn't have answers. Then, her eyes settled on the talking drum sitting quietly in the corner. She walked towards it and reached out her hand to touch it. And before I could stop myself, the words jumped out of my mouth. Don't touch that! The room went silent. Shola was surprised about how protective I was with the drum. Then she looked at me. Tobi, I don't know where all this money is coming from. But whatever that thing is, it is changing you. I quickly laughed it off. You're overthinking. It is just a drum. But even after she left, her words bothered me than they should have. Maybe because part of me already knew she was right. By midnight, the drum began pulling my attention like it always did. The moment I struck it, I knew something was different. The rhythm that answered wasn't familiar. This time, it was more tense. Each beat seemed heavier than the last. Then the visions came. But there weren't betting opportunities or anything that could make me money. This time, I saw people. Faces I didn't recognize. The vision lasted longer than before. And when it finally stopped, I realized that my hands were shaking. The room suddenly felt colder, and it felt like I wasn't alone. I looked around my apartment, then I looked back at the drum, and that's when I saw the figure of a man standing behind it. My heart nearly stopped. I jumped to my feet. The figure didn't move. He simply stood there, watching motionlessly, half hidden in the darkness. I rubbed my eyes, looked again, and he was gone. The corner was empty. For several seconds, I couldn't breathe. Then the rhythm returned, faster this time. The drum spoke, not through rhythms or visions, but actual words.
7 days.
7 days, it said. My heart stopped as I stared at the drum. Then it said, Shola dies. Everything inside me collapsed. No, this can't be happening. Sleep refused to come that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard the drum say her name again. So I opened my laptop and started digging through everything I could find about the previous owner. I remember what the old caretaker told me about the dead highlife musician. I spent hours searching through old articles, interviews, and forgotten blog posts. What I found disturbed me. According to several reports, the musician's career had exploded overnight. His fame and success came unusually fast, but the stories did not end there. As I kept reading, another pattern emerged: family disputes and people around him suffering unexplained setbacks. And then, sudden disappearance without a trace. The more I read, the more uncomfortable I became, because it was beginning to sound familiar. That night, I made my decision. I wasn't going to let it happen. I wasn't going to just allow Shola die. I didn't care what the drum wanted or if the prediction had always come true before. This time would be different. The first thing I did was call Shola. I told her everything. At first, she thought I had lost my mind. Honestly, I couldn't blame her. But after everything she had already seen, she listened. I could sense the fear in her voice. Don't worry, Shola, we will stop it. The next morning, I went back to the musician's old compound to look for the only person who seemed to know anything about the drum, the old caretaker who spoke to me on the day I bought it. When I finally found him, he looked less surprised to see me than I expected, almost as if he had been waiting for me. The moment he saw the drum in my hands, he sighed heavily. What exactly is this thing, sir? I asked with a shaky voice. Then he explained to me what the drum does to people who use it. He told me that the drum never predicts tomorrow. Rather, it steals tomorrow. Every blessing is transferred. Every opportunity is taken from somebody else. Every future is borrowed and nothing is free.
What do
I do now? The drum said my sister is going to die in 7 days. I asked with fear.
There has to be a way
to stop this. The old man was silent for some time. Then he finally nodded.
There might be a way.
You have to travel to where it came from.
The place
where the drum was made. That is where your answers are. The next morning, we began preparing for the journey. By sunrise, we were already on the road. Me, Shola, the caretaker, and the talking drum. Nobody spoke much during the journey. The road eventually narrowed into dusty paths surrounded by thick trees, and we got to the village hours later. At first, people simply stared at us, and when they noticed the drum, I noticed conversations stopped, and their faces tightened. Nobody wanted to come near us, as if we were carrying a disease. The village elders received us inside a large meeting hut near the center of the village. They already knew exactly what the drum was and what it could do. The caretaker explained everything to them, and none of them looked surprised. When he finished, one elder finally spoke. The drum was never created for music. Long ago, it was used in a ritual performed by powerful spiritual custodians. If a man desired wealth, success, health, or opportunity, the drum could give it to him. But faith cannot be created from nothing. For every blessing the drum gives, it must take something from someone else. Then another elder leaped forward and continued. And the worst part is that the drum always collects its debt. A chill ran through me, because deep down I already knew who that debt was coming for. My sister Shola. The elders continued long into the evening, and what they told us made everything even worse. Apparently, I wasn't the first person to sit where I was sitting. There had been many other owners before me, and every story followed the same pattern. Then the elder explained that the previous owners never truly disappeared. Many became trapped, and their spirits were bound to the drum after death. Suddenly, I remember the figure I saw the other night in my room. It must have been one of them. I looked at the elders. Please, I don't want to lose my sister. Is there anything we can do? Tell me how to stop it. The oldest elder looked at me and spoke. There is only one way to save your sister. The curse lives inside the drum. As long as it exists, the transfer continues. So what do we do? I asked. The trapped spirits need to be released. And for that to happen, a ritual must be performed, and the drum must be destroyed. But after that, everything the drum gave you will be taken back. Without hesitation, I agreed. What was the point of all that money if the people I earned it for were gone? If saving Shola meant losing everything the drum had given me, then so be it. I would rather return to struggling than keep living a life built on the stolen futures of people I love. The elders wasted no time. The moment the sun disappeared beneath the trees, preparations began. Torches were lit around a clearing deep inside the forest. Strange markings were drawn into the earth. The drum was placed at the center. Shola sat beside me while the elders moved around us, chanting words we did not understand. The caretaker stood nearby, and then the ritual began. At first, nothing happened. Then the drum started moving violently. The leather tightened on its own, and the wooden body shook against the ground. A deep sound rolled from inside it like a growl. A powerful wind swept through the clearing. The torches flickered, and the trees began swaying wildly. Then the drum started beating on its own. The sound exploded through the forest. Boom, boom, boom. Each beat felt like a punch to the chest. The air itself seemed to vibrate. Around the clearing, shadows began appearing. It was the trapped drummers. Dozens of them emerging from the darkness. They stood among the trees, watching the ritual unfold. The elders continued chanting, and the drum answered with even louder beats. The ground beneath us trembled. Then a crack appeared along the side of the drum. It shook harder as another crack appeared. Then suddenly, Shola collapsed. I rushed towards her. Shola, but she wasn't responding. Her body felt cold. Then the oldest elder stepped forward and struck the drum with all his strength. The crack spread across the wood. He struck it again, and the wood split even further. He hit it one last time, and the entire instrument shattered. The explosion of sound that followed through the forest echoed like thunder. The watchers froze. Then one by one, they began disappearing. The forest became quiet. The wind stopped and the shaking ended. Then Shola opened her eyes. I don't think I've ever felt that kind of relief before. I simply held her while tears rolled down my face. The curse was over, the drum was gone, and my sister was alive. But freedom came with a price. The following weeks changed everything. The betting wins stopped. The opportunities disappeared. The gigs that had been arriving so easily suddenly dried up. Money left my account faster than it ever entered. Every shortcut the drum had created began disappearing one by one, until almost nothing remained. It felt like my life was moving backwards. At first it hurt, but then I accepted it. Because this time, my mother was still alive, Shola was still alive, and nobody else's future was paying for mine. Strangely enough, losing everything felt better than keeping stolen success. Months passed, and life became normal again. So if you are listening to me, listen carefully. When life offers you a shortcut that seems too perfect, ask yourself what it's going to cost. Because some blessings aren't blessings at all. And sometimes, the thing that gives you everything you ever wanted is quietly taking everything that matters in return.